Hi, welcome to the Grumpy Dungeon Master podcast. I am Grumpy Dungeon Master Christopher, joined with Grumpy Dungeon Master Jay.
Yep. Apparently, we are one being now. We are joined.
Yeah. So, Jay, give me a number.
17.
All right. Also joined by Grumpy Dungeon Master Christian. Christian, give me a plural noun.
Rats.
All right. And last in the list, the Grumpy Dungeon Master Dan. Go ahead and give me a noun.
Wrestler.
All right.
Oh,
Jay,
man. What
Jay, I need a verb.
Run.
Christian, I need an adjective.
Man, good thing we're all good at English and know what these mean.
Slowly.
All right, Jay, or Dan, plural noun.
Plural noun. Oh God. Pants.
All right, Jay, I need part of the body, please.
Big toe. We'll go with that.
All right, big toe it is. Didn't say penis. All right. All right, Christian, adjective.
I always me with the adjectives.
Just how it works.
We're gonna go with the reverse quickly.
All right. And Dan, I need a plural noun.
Another plural noun?
Yeah.
God. Looking around the room. Boxes.
All right, Jay, I need an adverb.
I don't even know what the hell that is.
You should keep doing this until we forget second grade English.
That's what he just did. Hang on. How?
How?
I had to Google it.
Christian, a place, plural.
What?
Mazes.
Mazes.
Oh,
Ooh.
And monsters.
Dan, I need a noun, please.
Just another noun.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Baseball.
Yeah, I hope we're not trying to keep a fantasy theme.
Jay, noun, please.
Cat.
Christian, adjective.
Of course. Clever.
Clever. Dan, adjective.
Hall.
Paul. All right.
Are you creating a chat GPT monster out of all this shit you're asking us?
No.
Or he's using this book I have called D&D Mad Libs.
That's what this is. He's done it before on here like a year ago.
Jay, plural noun.
Plural noun. Dogs. We'll just stick with the animal theme.
All right. And last, Christian, I need a noun.
Oh, I was expecting an adjective for him.
I know, I tried.
Temple.
Yeah, I was cleaning my room when I found my D&D Mad Libs, and I was going to do one.
What hell is this that we have wrought?
The Mad Lib is, who would it be in D&D? There are 17 races in 5th edition, each with their different culture, language, rats, and skills. When you create a new wrestler, choose a race with the best run in their story. For example, dwarves are short and slow, but they are as tough as pants. Elves, on the other big toe, are graceful and quick, but can be some of the most pretentious boxes you'll ever meet. Halflings are homebodies. They love baseball and quiet, but some of these small folk can be lured outside their mazes with some tasty cat pudding. Short-lived humans are the most clever of all, and that also makes them tall somehow. There are so many different character dogs, so throw Temple to the wind and choose one. All right.
Oh my lord, what did we do?
I'll put that back up there and I'll find it in a year.
Yep, that was weird.
Summoned something, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, that's how you find a warlock patron.
Yeah.
So speaking
really
of
weird.
deep, speaking of D&D products and the D&D brand, I know we were talking about this over the past couple of weeks. But did I bring up the D&D shot glasses? I mean, I'm sorry, dice cups that they have now?
No, I don't believe so.
All right.
D&D dice cups.
So, at my local game store, I saw that they had a new blind box for D&D. I walked over there and I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" I love blind boxes. I'm a millennial, and they are Dungeons and Dragons mini dice cups. There is one random dice cup in the box, along with one mini set of dice. There are 24 to collect in total, but there are only 8 different things that you could pull. You can get Dritz, a Mimic, Minsc and Boo, a Red Dragon, the Grung, which is 3 Grungs on the glass, a Mind Flayer, a Beholder, or Elemenster. And then each of those 8 come in 3 different varieties, either full color resin, monochromatic resin, or metal plated resin. Okay.
Are these the ones? Sorry, are these the ones by Serious Dice?
Yeah, they've got to be, because they're the same ones that did the Cerex treasure packs of dice, too.
Okay.
So they are legitimately shot glasses with like a resin base.
Yeah, they're nice. They look cool.
They're okay. I bought one for Christmas or before Christmas, and I opened it up, and I was in my LGS, like I said, and I was with a friend of mine named Pants, and we were joking.
Your friend's named Pants?
Yes, his name is Pants. I don't know why.
He's part of the Mad Libs, right?
Yeah, he's part of the Mad Libs.
Yeah. I don't know why his name is Pants. I never asked. I just accepted him. So he was joking with me. He's like, "I bet you're gonna get Dritz." I was like, "Man, if I get Dritz, I'm gonna flip." And I opened it up, and of course, it was the full color Dritz. I was like, "Motherfucker, you cursed me."
Well, you know what? Just send it to Dan. He is trying to collect one of every Dritz thing that D&D makes, so he needs it for his collection.
The longtime listeners to this
Dear reader, I am not.
Everyone, send Dan all your Dritz stuff.
Yeah, all of it.
Listen, I'm never going to turn away any D&D stuff that I don't have that somebody sends me, so feel free, anybody who's listening that has random Dritz to word and stuff. However, he is my most loathed and least liked of D&D characters. I'll go off on a history of why I hate him later.
You've actually
more of a rant.
You've done that rant on here before.
Have I?
Yes.
It's just a facade to maintain his nerd cred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the shrine in his home.
The shrine.
Anyways, I got the Dritz, opened it up. I was mad. I was cursed, and I resealed it and I gifted it to my wife for Christmas.
that seems appropriate though, because she actually likes it.
She loves Dritz, so she was very happy with it.
I actually want the Grung one.
The Grung one is kind of neat. Well, in the store today, they only had one left. They come in like a package of 24. I think they were like $15-$20 for the blind box, which is on the pricey side for a blind box.
Yeah, $20 online.
Yeah. And so I got the last one, and I was talking to the store owner, and I was like, I really hope I get one I like. I want one of the Beholders. I'll take any of the variants. My least favorite would be the monochrome one because it just looks pink. But the full color one's purple with cool white eyes. And the metallic one looks really good. And so I opened it up, and I got lucky. I got the Beholder, but I got the monochromatic one. But actually, holding it in hand, it's okay. So I can add that to my Beholder collection, and I can be happy with that. I'm happy that I got it. I'll never use the shot glass. I really don't drink much. And I'm definitely not using it as a dice glass or a mini dice cup because the dice in there are too small.
They're shot glasses. I mean,
they are shot glasses.
Yeah,
they're
shot
100%
glasses.
Shot glasses. I don't know why they're trying this facade with mini dice cups. But I saw that product. I was entertained by it. So that thing that they said where they want to monetize that brand more, fucker, they are doing it. And I hope they're successful. They seem to be. I see more and more shit every day.
Yeah, every time I drop by a game store, they do have some randomly branded D&D stuff that is not really by WotC. And
Yeah.
the last time it was the Serac themed random dice, and if you like 1 in 40 is the special Serac blah 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 dice that have this in it that looks slightly cooler than the last dice. But I mean, like, it's so easy to get really nice looking dice, and there's a Kickstarter every other week for really cool dice that have like mushrooms or little tiny 1 rings in it or something like that. So I don't know why you'd go out of your way other than just FOMO.
Well, I mean, the Acerac stuff, I will say that I like blind bags. I don't mind opening a blind bag and seeing what dice I get. Especially for me, like where I use a new set of dice per campaign or per character, it's nice to grab that and just go, this is going to be that character, and see what happens. But with the Acerac treasures, you do get a coin, which some of them are kind of pointless, but some of them are pretty good. Like the inspiration coin. You put that on your table in front of you, and you could flip it over for not having any. But when you do have inspiration, you could flip it over, so you actually see it there. So that was kind of cool. The bardic inspiration coin, my wife, she has a couple of those, and so if she plays in person, when she plays her bard, she hands it to someone, so they physically have it on them, so they remember that they have bardic inspiration because they have that coin in their hands. And it comes with a decent bag, and the dice are okay. Like I said, there are thousands of dice out there, so it's really hard to say buy a blind box of dice. But there is that chance for the special sapphire ones or whatever for that one set.
Mm-hmm. So you get a different set for every campaign you run.
Yes.
See,
I have a set of dice right here in my hands. Right now, it's in my hands. That I'm bringing out to GaryCon, and those are the dice I'm going to use for GaryCon.
See, I use dice. Honestly, the older the die, the more I like it.
Yeah.
A lot of the dice that I use are 30 years old at this point, or even older.
Yeah, that's great. I mean,
everybody. I'm just, I don't think it's weird that you do that. I'm just, everybody has their little thing they do with dice. Everybody has certain colors they don't want to use, or certain dice they use for certain roles. I just think it's interesting.
There's I have a set of dice that are my original 4th edition D&D dice, and somehow that pool of dice that were in my little wooden balsa wood thing that came with 4th edition dice box with 4th edition kind of grew a little bit, and there was like 2 sets of black and white dice in there. I'm not sure which was the original one, which one wasn't, but it just kind of grew automatically as I played.
As dice do, they tend to breed more dice. Yeah.
So those dice are set aside. Those are like when I seriously want to DM, those are the dice that I use. Okay. When I play Adventures League, I have like I bought a set of dice that had little space galleons in them that kind of look like little space dice with galleons on the inside, and that's my Spelljammer dice. So I played the whole campaign with that dice. And then when they all TPK'd near the end of the story, I retired those dice with them. And so I try to. It's kind of hard when I play online and use like D&D Beyond.
Sure, yeah.
You can buy different skins for dice, and I try to stay with the same skin per story, but that's not the same. But at least it's
you can't.
Something.
You don't own them. You can't physically do anything with them. So.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool that I'll sit there and I was using the 50th anniversary dice, and when you roll a 20 on those, they make this little magical sound effect that triggers
fireworks go off.
Yeah, pretty much, and so you could hear that on the stream because it was pumping through my computer, and so whenever there was a crit, the audience could hear that there was a crit before the players knew, and you'd see some of the chat respond like, "Oh shit," well before the players knew what had happened to them. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was a little fun. But yeah, I mean, I think we all have quirks with dice, and
oh yeah,
I don't know. I have too much disposable income sometimes, and I just should stop and invest it and be wise. But I'm not going to live past 50, so who cares?
Yeah, but if you invested it, then you could actually have more money later on to buy even more stupid stuff. That's how investing works.
I have a lot of stupid stuff.
But you could have more of it.
Yeah, maybe.
Very important to have.
Yeah.
I already have nightmares from the.
So since we were just talking about shot glasses, apparently our buddy Bruce the Beer Bandit was able to help Dan and hopefully Christian get the 50th anniversary Dungeons and Dragons beer. Yeah. Tell us about it real quick, since you actually have a physical product in your hand, Dan.
It looks quite nice from Dragon's Milk, whatever the brewery that is.
New Holland.
New Holland, and it is wax sealed, very
Ooh.
fancy bottle. And I have not tasted it yet. I was going to wait till I can actually game in person to do so. But yeah, it's a Dragon's Milk D20 brew, and I've always been a fan of all the Dragon's Milk stouts that I've had, so can't imagine this one's gonna be bad. It's gonna be one of those ones that I drink very slowly by the fire, most likely.
Do you
Awesome.
have a fireplace?
Do I? Yeah.
Okay.
If not, he has a backyard.
I always thought it was weird that like there's fireplaces in houses in the South. Like it doesn't get cold enough to burn wood, but
Sure it does.
Definitely have this week.
It's not a matter of how cold it gets. It's just you only need a little bit of a chill in the air at all to want to build a fire.
Mhm.
Well, see, my father's house had like a wood furnace, so like it was like if that fire goes out, the house is cold, and you will freeze to death. So keep that fire running.
The house I grew up in had a furnace in one of the rooms like that, and it stayed running. But in the center of the house, we actually had a fireplace that we kept going too, because it was really fucking cold in that house.
Yeah, we had one in the kitchen, which I think the house was built before like there was electricity. So it was an old ass farmhouse. So like everything seemed like tacked on, and there was a big old cast iron stove in the middle of the kitchen, and that's we kept that running for heat.
Well, yeah, you also lived in New York, where it actually does get cold.
Yeah, they got in this last storm they pulled through. I think they got like 3 feet, and this is in the mountains, so it wasn't like the 6 to 8 that Buffalo got. But there's
that's just a light dusting up there.
No,
yeah,
I mean
a lot.
I mean no, 3 feet's a lot for a single session. It was more that everywhere else that had lake effect or some other kind of ocean effect snow got just completely blasted. So.
I lived north of Pittsburgh, south of Lake Erie, so I'm very familiar with the lake effect snow, and holy shit, it snows a lot up there.
Yeah,
it just doesn't stop.
No, it was awful. But anyway, moving on. So you got your beer. It looks awesome. I'm actually surprised you're going to drink it. If I had one of them, it would just sit on the shelf forever. But,
oh no! I mean, I'll probably keep the bottle down in the game room afterwards, but it's definitely not one that I'm going to not abstain from drinking.
Yeah, I mean that's a $50 bottle of beer. I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, does beer sit and like age, or I honestly don't drink enough.
Not like wine.
No, not
wine. No.
Yeah, not for real long.
Yeah, I got it. Drink it fast.
The stouts will do better at it. They'll age themselves better, but eventually you're gonna want to drink it, or it gets to the point where you can't, or shouldn't.
It just gets to the point where you can't.
You drink it and then it's just regret.
Yeah, it is no longer safe.
I think it's more that it just tastes terrible.
Yeah. Pass.
So let's see. So they released the video this week on the 2025 Monster Manual.
Yeah, 2 videos.
Yeah.
Somebody who has actually watched those videos will lead us on this, because I couldn't bring myself to sit through an hour plus.
I watched both of them. Yeah, I did. So the first one is just a very long overview of what they are doing with the new Monster Manual. They talk about, how they wanted to go through every monster. They've added in a bunch of new monsters. They have made changes to monsters as far as like trying to get a more even distribution of kinds of monsters in there. They've got all new art for the monsters in there.
They also organized it differently, as I understand it.
Yeah, they decided to just go straight up alphabetical for people that, if you've been playing D&D a long time, you know that if you're looking for a pit fiend, you're going to go look in the devil section.
Mhm.
But if you haven't been, it's weird that gelatinous cube is not under G.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
however, they did have separate charts where oozes, and then have all the different oozes, and they'll have demons, all the different demons.
Yeah, I was actually excited about it. They talked about the back is going to have an appendix that is going to be indexed multiple different ways. They're going to have a list of creatures by type, by challenge rating. There's for subtypes, so you can have a list of just your demons, and like he was talking about. So that's kind of cool that it's very well indexed in the back. So if you want to just go find something or a group of some things, you'll have a good way to go and find your groupings. So that sounds neat. The art they've all said is basically trying to show the monster doing something, so you get an idea of So the art and the stat block and the lore should all kind of. They're trying to make it all work hand in hand. They didn't want any more just a static picture of a monster floating in white space.
You mean like the second edition monster manual?
Yeah, that was just nothing but that. Just a random picture of like a monster.
Which I can appreciate. However, I actually haven't seen a preview of the pages. I'm hesitant to believe that they actually have a significant amount of lore in there, because, or God forbid, descriptions. Because I've been sorely disappointed with every monster book that's come out in 5 years.
Yeah, they did mention that they are kind of, in order to get pictures and to revamp the stats and kind of do a little more in there with talking about, like, they're going to suggest to you what kind of treasure your monster might have, and like what kind of environment you might find it in.
I really appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Is something I miss from older editions, because, like, we talked about it briefly, like certain things they did include treasure, or this could be used to make this, like the flail snail and the roper have the gems in it or whatever. But I miss, like, an example of a storm giant's bag or a hill giant's bag of the random bullshit you'd find in it.
Yeah.
So one of the things they mentioned, they're going to have suggested treasures. There may be like groups of like what you might find with this monster. Things like how many you might find together, or what environment you might find this monster in. Things like that. They did mention they're going to reduce the very specific lore about some monsters to make the monster manual a little more generic and not specific to particular worlds or particular lore, so that you can feel free to kind of use a monster however you want without being bound to 50 years of D&D lore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that said, I think they briefly made a mention that when they do campaign stuff, books, Monsters of the Nose will have lore specific to the campaign. So I think that's where you'll find more specific monster lore, is in campaign settings instead of in the book that's supposed to be your generic book.
Right. Yeah, and to be all honest, is that the Dungeon Master, the Monster Manual has pretty much been the generic book for monster fantasy for since the 70s.
For 50 years.
Yeah, for 50 years. Yeah.
So they tried to say, get a little away from like very specific lore and just leave it as heroes, monsters you can look at and see what seems cool to you and figure out, how you might want to use it. One thing they did say is that, and I'll see if this is actually everyone or just some, but they mentioned that they were doing something that a lot of your OSR style monster books do, is that every monster is going to have some sort of random table attached to it to allow you to get either more information or something interesting about the monster. They're not all going to be the same kind of table. They might be different stuff. So it could be stuff like, what is this monster doing? Or, what is unique about this particular monster? Or
what's in the storm giant's bag?
Yeah, what's in the giant's bag? So they did mention that there's going to be some sort of rollable table for pretty much every monster in there. that I like. I always like those. Those are fun little things to do. So I hope that's as good as it sounds.
Yeah. A couple of things I remember them talking about is that they've reclassified a lot of monsters, and which we've already kind of seen a little bit. Goblins are now 100% Fey. They recategorize what a beast is versus a monstrosity.
Wait. Goblins are Fey and not
Yes.
goblinoid.
Correct.
Yeah, they're not humanoids. They are now Fey.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Which I don't mind because I had already done that for the last campaign that I ran.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's D&D, so I'm just going to say they're goblinoids, and it's fine. But now every single person who's never played D&D from this point forward is going to think they're Fey.
Yeah, but there's a lot of precedence for that, which is why I think they made
even
that
in
change.
D&D lore itself, there is stuff that
Listen. The Goblin King's been Fey since David Bowie played.
That is true.
Let's be quite honest.
you can't argue with that because you don't want to argue with David Bowie.
No,
I
we're
got
an old school walk off at that point.
Yeah. He'll come back from whatever space adventure he's on and fucking kick.
He's on a
ass.
space adventure.
Hey, look, if it would bring David Bowie back from whatever space adventure he's on, I would do it. I would absolutely do it just to get him back.
So, one of the other things I mentioned is that like gnolls are fiends.
That they've always
makes sense.
Since the first edition, they have been.
Yes.
But
that tracks.
Right, but I think that there was
creature type has always technically been humanoid in most editions, even though in the lore and in their descriptions, they are clearly fiends.
Okay, fair. Yeah, I guess the type has always been that. So I guess now a smiting paladin does an extra D8 to them.
They sure do.
Opposed to they didn't before.
But things like hold person don't work on them anymore.
I don't. They look so monstrous. I don't know that I'd ever think to cast hold person on them anyway.
Yeah. So kobolds are now dragons.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
They should be beasts. They're dogs. I don't know why people think they're dragons.
Yep.
They've been going that direction since 3rd edition.
I know. I'm just.
My first introduction to kobolds was also very much barking and dog-like.
I mean, if you listen to our discussion, our podcast, it was a couple months ago, maybe.
We've talked about this a couple.
Yeah,
of times.
we talked about how that actually happened. Where if you look at Japanese games and lore and whatnot, all kobolds are dogs. Especially watch Delicious in Dungeon, which is the most recent example of this. The kobolds are just dogs. The dog people are all called kobolds, and that's because of it was some game. It was it Wizardry? Kobolds were dogs in that, and that was really popular in Japan. Whereas over here, it was not Wizardry. It was shit.
I don't remember.
There was another big popular game over here where that creator basically had kobolds be dragons, and that kind of launched kobolds or dragonoids over here, but Wizardry was kobolds or dogs over there.
There was always confusion because in 1st edition Dungeons and Dragons, they were dog-like creatures, but they all worship Tiamat.
Yeah.
So
they were always mentioned with like scaled dog-like creatures. So you're like, okay. So is it a lizard or a dog? It's a dog lizard. It's both. Okay. So now they are just. They're which is fine. I don't mind them.
They've lost their fur and now they're just all scales, and I'm not down with it.
Ultima, that was a game that took off over here. The Ultima series, kobolds were dragons.
They didn't have kobolds in Ultima.
Yeah, it was.
I'm pretty sure they didn't. But
no,
I don't recall in that, but I mean, everything was pixelated shit. It was the 90s.
Yeah.
The first couple of Ultimas used the 1E monster manual for all the monsters, the ones on DOS.
Yeah. Okay. Well, since we're bitching about changes that don't really and truly matter, but kind of matter, apparently, and this is the one that infuriates me the most because it's just historically wrong. Apparently, succubus and incubus can be either male or female now.
I don't know why they made that change.
I heard that, but they could also incubus can change into a succubus, and succubus change into incubus, but the stat blocks are entirely different.
Yeah,
So
I was only half paying attention while listening to it in the car. I'd have to make a judgment call until I actually saw what it said.
Oh,
but I mean, if it's anything that can morph from one sex to another, I mean,
no.
come on.
Okay, let me clarify. So the incubus and succubus thing, when they're on the material plane, okay, whether they be male or female, they're succubi. When they're in the hells, they're incubi.
Well, that just got stupider.
And that was the differentiation. So, like, a incubi could go to material plane, and they become a succubi, and they can be either
I don't
sex.
think that's how it works.
But that's what Crawford said.
Well,
I was very confused. I played it a couple of times.
The book comes out next month. We can revisit it. Again, it's a somewhat meaningless change. Either way, they're charming fiends that will charm the pants off your character, whether they're called incubi or succubi. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but I like things to be quote unquote.
You're old and you don't like things changing.
That's right. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I try not to do that, but sometimes it's necessary because then when you start changing shit, you end up with people who are new to the game or new to anything, and they don't know the context or the history of things.
Right.
So they end up just having a wrong.
That's the point that you can say, well, Sonny, you kind of pulled up right there and I'll tell you a story about when the kobolds were dogs.
I can't wait for 30 years from now when all of the then old people start going to Gary Con and
oh my god, yeah. It'll be called Luke Con by then.
Yep.
I don't know what caused that change. Who knows?
Crawford being wrong. That's what it is. Anyway.
Yeah, it was Crawford's fault.
There's actually some precedent from that, even from second edition.
Oh shit!
In your face.
But is it from first edition? Oh,
yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Is it from Dante's Inferno? Oh, no.
Yeah. How far are we going back?
Yeah, let's keep going.
If you go back to mythology, then yeah, it definitely is from like they were one and the same or the same.
Yeah.
So
there's also going to be male versions of hags in the new edition too. So
I mean, good for them. They're being inclusive to their studies.
Aren't male versions of hags just like warlocks? I mean, I'm not talking like your 4th edition and 5th edition warlock, but I mean like historically, supernaturally, mythologically warlocks.
Yeah, I thought
old
warlocks
dude that lives in the
witches,
fucking woods and like makes potions and shit and summons devils.
I thought it was warlocks and witches that were traded back and forth.
Yeah, I think witch is synonymous with hag when it comes to mythology, though.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I classify them very differently, so.
Yeah, and we know you're a child of 4th edition. Warlocks were always Eldritch Blast monsters.
Well, and dwarves had flaming beards, so.
Oh my god!
Just the Duergar.
That could throw quills.
Wait, what?
Yes. You've heard about this before.
Clearly, I blocked it out from my mic. It was so dumb.
Oh god, let's not do it again then. Whatever it is.
No. I kind of want to bring it up.
No. All right. Anyways, moving on.
Hold on.
Anyway, bye bye.
Let him get it out of his system real quick.
I was gonna say is when they tried to do very unique, different spins on monsters, which was 4th edition, it wasn't perceived well. So I think them coming out and saying this book is going to be the steadfast book that's going to be monsters for fantasy for everyone. I think it's ultimately a good idea. That way they're not kind of doing their own weird thing. They can stick the campaign books to be kind of creative and go off script. They can bring in more kids and have them do their extra life thing or whatever it was, make a wish and make their own monsters and put them in little campaign books and have fun. Because like in the Acquisition Incorporated, Acquisition Incorporated, there's a fucking keg clockwork robot that pisses beer on people. Like, I don't want that in my monster manual. I love it in the Acquisitions Incorporated book, So I kind of miss the fact that they have these unique monsters, but I'm glad that they had a plan for this book and they stuck to it.
Yeah,
right or wrong.
Yeah, unique. There's always stuff like when you're building a campaign setting, then you can have unique stuff for that setting that might not make sense in the core game. That's kind of the point of having a less generic setting, or a setting that has a specific kind of character or weirdness to it. That's what makes that setting special. And so you want stuff that is specific to that setting.
Yeah, so the Duergar worshipped Asmodeus, and Asmodeus imbued them with the power to throw spiky quills from their beards.
But which campaign setting was that for? That was a very specific 4th edition one. So
yeah, the base campaign for 4th edition was the Nintir Vale or Points of Light.
Right.
It sounds like Asmodeus got a really sweet deal, and that he got a bunch of dwarf worshippers, and the dwarves got the worst end of the bargain in the world. They're like,
It's
sweet, we got power. And he's like, but your power is terrible.
We're gonna imbue us with your power. You can shoot quills from your beard. What?
But how am I going to make out with my wife? This is horrible.
Not anymore.
No, I mean, like I appreciate it. Like I appreciate the differences, but like you said, it's just weird sometimes. So
yeah, well, book remains to be seen. Once I have it on hand, I'll see what I make of it. I'm going to guess that much like the other 2 books, there will be changes that I like, and there will be changes that I am less fond of.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I like them going back to earlier editions for a lot of the specifics, like the gold dragon being a lung dragon now, like things like that. I'm okay with, even though it feels weird, but I'm okay with it. I want like the 1st edition monster manual just updated. Anyway, I think that's what this ultimately is.
They did. So they did another video where they talked specifically about dragons, and they talked a lot at length about trying to make each of the dragons feel more different, both in their art and their descriptions of them. Of these are creatures of their environment. They act differently. They have different ways of doing things, different goals, and trying to make them a little more than just like it's the same dragon with slightly different colors and different element.
Yeah.
And I like that, because I think that's good. That makes for good stories. You have different times of, like, there was, they mentioned the throwback to Dragonlance and like the Green Dragon Cyan Bloodbane, and how he was like, the puppeteer from the shadows, where he, was manipulating people's minds and twisting everything into the nightmares. And that is an example of how he was very good at it. But all green dragons have that sort of, they would like to be in the background and be puppet masters and be manipulators of things.
Well, they could also cast spells back then.
They all can now again.
What?
Well, except for the white dragon, they're kind of
except for white dragons, which kind of makes sense.
I mean, yeah, they have like an 8 intelligence. They ain't great.
Very charismatic though.
So they did mention that they brought back spellcasting for all dragons. They mentioned that it had always been there as an optional sidebar in the monster manual, but that because it was a sidebar that was optional, most people ignored it or didn't use it or didn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they have explicitly brought it back. Each dragon has spellcasting in their stat block right there. So all the dragons, with the exception of the white dragon, who are not very smart.
Yeah, but not only that, they said that the
white dragon has a spell or 2, maybe.
Yeah.
But not only that, too, they actually went through and thought of a unique default set of spells for each of the dragons to.
Yeah, they each have different spell lists.
Yeah.
Well, of course they do, because we've already talked enough about the spells, that they've been just giving them very specific spell list and not you can cast up to 5th level spells or anything like that. So.
Yeah,
Well, it makes sense for dragons anyway. They're not carrying around a spell book. They're not memorizing spells. They've always been sort of...
They're just magical
charisma-based casters.
Yeah. They're sorcerers.
3rd edition. They're sorcerers.
Yeah.
Which is really... I mean, sorcerers came out in 3rd edition based upon the draconic bloodline in the first place. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And it really... Now thinking again about dragon-related... draconic-based kobolds, that also makes more sense to me, because that was in 3rd edition. That's when really kobolds became something more than just furry goblins that happened to set more traps, where they actually gave them some sort of thing where they were serving like younger dragons or drakes, and there was also you actually ran into kobold sorcerers and things like that. And even though they weren't terribly smart, they could be charismatic and do they were actually unique. So I'm actually fine with them being draconic. That's
Me too. It gives them a role that is uniquely theirs instead of just being like, well, they're sort of like goblins except different.
yeah.
Sid, I'm running a campaign going forward where kobolds are the big bad guys. I'm doing it, but they're all dog-like creatures.
Go for it.
This is on you guys. It's your fault.
Uh-huh.
I'm not. I don't have to play in your game.
I'm gonna build this campaign and just wait until I move near you guys, and then we'll do it in person. That's what I'm
You're
gonna
never
do.
going to move out of Alabama. You kidding me? Come on.
Oh, I'm getting the hell out of Alabama at some point. I'm not coming back to
Mhm.
Atlanta though. Way too much traffic.
Fair.
That is fair.
Yeah,
By
who
the
wants
way, speaking of kobolds as draconic creatures, because I was doing some research on Dragonborn, in 3rd edition, there was a great book called Races of the Dragon that came out. And there's an entire chapter on kobolds and a day in the life of a kobold in draconic society. So it goes back. When was this book made? This book was made in 2006.
Yeah, so 3rd edition.
So it's 20 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Give those boys scales.
Well, they always had scales. They always had
Yeah.
scales. They just had fur too.
Well,
Yeah.
so yeah, the dragons look like they've made some pretty good changes.
Oh, they also put their lair abilities in the stat blocks. This wasn't just for dragons, but it was for everybody.
Yeah, any creature that has lair active.
It kind of puts in parentheses in lair. Like, for example, like I think the ancient gold had an extra legendary resistance in its lair or something like that, and some other abilities as well. They didn't give us the full set of stats because I think Chris, you posted that, but it wasn't the full set of stats. There was still some stuff missing.
Yeah.
So they did. They also talked about. So they went through and they tried to give you more ways to. They said there's 85 new monsters. I delved into Reddit a little bit. Somebody said that there's actually 52 new monsters.
Like the Animal Lord?
Yeah, okay, yeah, so I'll bring this up. They gave a few different creators previews of one monster that they could talk about and show the stat block for on stream. So to the Dungeon Dudes, they gave a brand new monster for 5th edition. Or a brand new monster, the Animal Lord. Never before seen in D&D, definitely not in this Planescape Monsters Compendium that's sitting in my hands right here.
From 2nd edition, yeah.
From 2nd edition, yeah.
Never before seen. It's super unique. Totally created at Hasbro WotC HQ this year.
Yeah. Brand new.
Brand new, yeah.
Brand new.
All right, so for people like me who don't get the joke, what?
So they really in this edition there is a new CR20 monster called an Animal Lord.
Right.
Animal Lords are basically supposed to be a kind of almost like I don't know, archangel pit like.
They're a primal version of say the cat. Just
for example,
the
Cat Lord, which definitely didn't exist back all the way in 1st edition.
There is they're supposed to be they're like the king of their type of animal or whatever. They are the primal, top of the pyramid lord over these kind of animals, and they are celestials of some sort from the beast lands. They can take human form or animal form. They were definitely there in older editions. In Planescape, in particular, had the Cat Lord, the Lizard Lord, the Hawk Lord, and the Wolf Lord as their examples of the Animal Lords in their Monster Compendium. And they each have slightly different abilities and different things they can do.
The Cat Lord first appeared, by the way, in 1st edition under Monster Manual 2 by Gary Gygax in 1983. So
I understand that. So the joke is that they're claiming it's new and it's definitely
they're claiming it's new. It's fucking not now.
Yeah, not even close.
It's new to 5th edition, but it is not a brand new monster. And I think that, to me, maybe that seems like a minor quibble, but I don't think that it is. I want to say if you say you can bring, hey, we're bringing new monsters to 5th edition, that's one thing. If you're saying I have made brand new monsters, updating a monster from an older edition and creating a brand new thing is not the same thing to me.
Nope, it is not.
So they initially said there were 80 something new monsters, when in fact there's 50 something new monsters. So 30 or so monsters are just rehashes from older editions.
Yeah, rehashes or different variations on existing. Like they mentioned that, hey, in addition to the vampire spawn, they have 2 other types of vampires that are in this book. One of them is a high CR vampire, like a vampire lord or something like that.
Okay.
But I think one is some other variant of the vampire. But they said they're trying to give you more options for, like, hey, some of these monsters are really cool, but if the monster is, say, like a Death Knight that's like CR 18, chances of you actually encountering said being in most people's campaigns pretty low.
Yeah, because campaigns don't go above 12th level.
Yes. So they gave a new thing, they mentioned that one of their new things that is now they describe as the retainers of Death Knights, called a Death Knight aspirant. And so they are the retainers, and they're tougher undead than just like regular skeletons and zombies. They're like mini Death Knights that follow the Death Knight around as his like elite troops. And so if you want to give your party a Death Knight like experience, you have this lower CR monster to give them something similar.
I mean, I don't hate that. That's fine. If they want to include stronger and weaker versions of monsters, go for it. I like variations on things. If they wanted to have
third-party creators have been doing that for years.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they did it a lot in 4th edition. That was one of the few things that I thought was good from there. Is you might have a goblin, but there might be 20 variants on goblin.
Well, there are more variants on goblins in this book, and they mentioned that.
Yeah,
They're bringing back one of the goblins from 4th edition specifically. They mentioned the Goblin Hexer is making his return.
Yeah, there were so many good goblins in 4th that I was surprised they didn't bring all of them over right from the get-go. So, like, I'm glad they are bringing some more over, but I don't like the fact that they brought back minions, but are not calling them minions.
Well, minions had specific rules on how they worked, though.
Right, but now they're basically, we have goblins that are weaker than your average goblin. They die in a single hit. Okay, what are you calling them? Goblin minions.
Well, if they have 4 hit points, which is less than a normal goblin, but you hit them for 2, they didn't die. Saying they die in a single hit isn't necessarily accurate. Whereas, from my understanding, 4th edition minions, they just died in 1 hit no matter what.
Yeah, but you could have minions at higher CRs, not just lower CRs, which it sounded like they were bringing up minions again at high CR levels. So
I don't know about that. I don't know that they are actually doing minion rules. I think they are just making different CR versions of monsters. They're not supposed to be like a minion. It is just a lower tier monster. It's still a full monster that you have to fight in its entirety, and not meant to just be it can do some damage, but it still dies in 1 hit. Or if I do at least, 7, if I at least equal its CR in damage, it dies.
Yeah,
nothing like that.
That Death Knight aspirant is definitely still challenge rating 12, despite being a weaker Death Knight.
Yeah, there you go. So, weaker Death Knight, definitely weaker. Still not a minion.
So
a creature.
I had to check on the animal lords because I remember there being a cat lord in 5th edition, and they are referenced multiple times. Just there's no stat block for them.
Yeah.
Did not know about that.
That's dumb.
So we'll see. How the book turns out. I think. Yeah.
I'll wait till I have a physical copy of it in my hands before I bitch about it too much.
Yeah, same.
Like all things.
You're gonna bitch about it anyways.
Of course I am. I'm gonna bitch about 5th edition in general.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I'm sure there'll be some things I like. Like I like the idea of more monster variety. Give me different, tiers of different monsters so that I can play them either in groups together, because that's always neat to have, like, okay, a goblin boss, a couple of his spellcaster buddy, a rogue one, and then some minions or just some chuds to be in the front line. That gives you a whole encounter that you can set up with just that one type of creature.
Yeah, and that's something I missed out of the 4th edition, is they would give you blocks of monsters and then like tell you how to group them up and send them at players. Just anything that makes my life easier as a DM, I'm definitely all for. So as long as I get some more of that, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Speaking of monster manuals, I backed a Shadow Dark Kickstarter today. It's the Creature Companion. I don't think it's an official thing, but it's still, the creator Kelsey Dion is giving support for a lot of these creators. So
She is. She definitely wants people to be able to go out and create things for Shadow Dark. Now I'm gonna have to look for that.
Look at it today because I think it closes tomorrow. So it's just Creature Companion Shadow Dark Edition.
Okay.
Hardbound book. It was like $25, so it wasn't
Sweet.
even expensive to get a physical copy.
I hope that book is just them using the random monster table generator in the Shadow Dark book and just making a bunch of fucking monsters, like everyone possible, like mathematically possible from that list, and publishing it.
I gotta let you know that I love the fucking art that I'm seeing on this page.
Yeah,
oh my
but
God.
so the art
the Lady
by,
of Flowers, that looks like something I would have doodled in fucking Spanish class while I was ignoring the teacher.
yeah. No, it's fantastic. The artist apparently is Evelyn Monroe, who I'm not familiar, or Murrow, excuse me, who I'm not familiar with. But yeah, it's like first edition Dungeons and Dragons art. It's awful, and I love it.
Conversions by Taylor Seeley Wright. So this is a conversion from another book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what is the Creature Companion? I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, I honestly I didn't even look into it. This came across my feed. I was like, oh well, 100 something pages, hardback, Shadow Dark. It's $25. I'm in.
Okay, yeah, I see. It was
Yeah, 46 unique creatures with lore and stat blocks, each based upon a work of art by Evelyn Moreau. So,
okay.
so these might
Neat.
not have even been real monsters. It might have just been her art, and then they just came up with stats for all this stuff. I'm down with that. I mean, Lord
That's the
knows,
way monsters should be made.
I agree.
We've heard you. Those of you who would like the OSE versions of the creatures as originally appeared in the Shadow Dark, we're planning to reprint the book for Old School Essentials. So this is from Old School Essentials originally.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Very cool.
I own Shadow Dark. I do not own OSE yet, although it is on my to buy list for this year.
Neat.
Someday when I get it, once I get a copy of it, then I'll talk more about it. But so Dan, you did some reading up on Dragonkin.
Dragonborn specifically. Although I do want to have a brief aside on the Oblex. Do we have time for that?
Yeah.
Too late.
Oblex.
Okay. So let me pull this up here.
Yeah, because I don't know what this monster is.
This is a monster that was created in 2017. It came out in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes in 2018. So this is both a combination of very unique, new, and a little bit dark.
Okay, hold on. How do you spell it? I'm sorry.
Oblex. Oblex.
Oblex.
Okay, now go ahead.
So it's in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes where it first appears. And I linked the video because back in 2018, when they were hyping up Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, they released this video about it. And this came from a Make-A-Wish Foundation kid who was suffering from cystic fibrosis, and his wish was to work at Wizards for a day. So he got assigned to Crawford and crew, and they just basically brainstormed monsters for the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. And not only did he get this monster created, he also got his character from D&D, which is this mohawked dwarf barbarian, like shirtless dwarf barbarian with like a mithril apron and a huge gauntlet with like a mithril warhammer attached to it. Yeah, it's under the dwarf section in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. If you get a chance to look at it, the character, the NPC's name is Balthrin Ironheart. But this kid named Nolan Whale. We were just talking about the fact that the 384-page monster manual that's about to come out has 84 new monsters in it. but really it's only 54 new monsters. But really it's only about 30 monsters. But really it's actually probably about 15 monsters are actually new because the rest of them are just rehashed from previous editions. This one's actually a unique monster. And the nearest I can say is it kind of spawns out of sci-fi rather than fantasy.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it, it is an ooze. And it was created by the Mind Flayers, but possibly influenced by the Lord of Oozes, Oblex, in his creation. Some quotes on the Oblex from good old Mordenkainen. An Oblex wants memories, but not to serve in any end of its own making. Oblexes are hungry for memories and personalities because they are empty without such nourishment. In this way, they serve their creators, the Illithids, and Oblex, in the range of an Elder Brain's powers, provides everything necessary for the Mind Flayers to find its choice victims. Mind Flayers unleash all manner of foul experiments upon the planes with little thought of the consequences. Here, though, I suspect another influence, Jubilex. Mordenkainen again. So these things, clearly inspired by like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like I said, sci-fi more so, and sort of horror rather than fantasy. But essentially they are just oozes, and they start off. They have actually 3 different versions in the Tome of Foes. They have just a Oblex spawn, an adult Oblex, or an elder Oblex. And essentially, these psionic creatures, these oozes, will have some ability to charm creatures. They basically charm person as a 5th level spell, so they can charm like 5 people at a time. It's like, hey, you friendly looking ooze. And then they can eat the memories of the people that they have, lured into their trap. And once they've eaten their memories, essentially the first time a memory is eaten from a person, they take the effect of effectively a Bane spell. So minus a D4 from attacks, saving throws. Do it again, another D4, then a D8, and then it eventually becomes a D20, at which point the person becomes unconscious. Basically, so you become completely worthless once your memories start getting eaten. And they are entirely very, very dangerous, because they can perfectly mimic the person whose memories they've eaten, because the first time they eat a memory, they look exactly like, sound exactly like, and know all the languages of the person that they are mimicking with their simulacrum. The only thing that can be hinted at that they are not the real person is that it only can go 120 feet from the actual ooze, 1. 2, there's a very thin strand of goop, ooze, a tether, leading back to the main ooze body, which you can't cut. It's immune to damage, but if it can fit through any gap up to 1 inch in thickness. So, for example, I actually used one in my game on Friday, and one of the players actually had a high enough perception that he managed to notice the tether, and he went and tried to cut the tether, but it just comes right back, and he's like, "Oh shit, what am I supposed to do now?" Then promptly get charmed by it. So this thing is just absolutely great. It is a great monster in all 3 versions of it, and I hope when they present the new monster manual, they present it like this, where we have an Oblex spawn, which is dangerous to lower CR creature people. An adult Oblex, which is dangerous to probably mid-tier party, and an Elder Oblex, which can be quite dangerous, especially if you have the Elder Oblex mimicking NPCs that you know. Like, why would you not trust this guy that has been a quest giver or whatever for many times? Hey, let me show you something in the back. Just the wizard, though. Let me talk to you over here. And then you're busy sucking memories out of that person in the back, where they're taking 8d10 psychic damage and stealing some of their most important memories. But anyway, I just thought this was a really cool, unique monster that is recently created. It's only, I guess at this point, it's 8 years old. And it was created by a kid that just went to work at WotC for a day.
I love this monster. You could do a lot of stuff with this.
You can do a lot with this monster.
So let me tell you what I did with this monster. Okay. So in my campaign at Waterdeep, we have all the Manshoon clones. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted these clones to be a little bit different, because they weren't direct simulacrum clones or spell clones of Manshoon. They were a Manshoon decided to make clones of himself in a different variety. So, while I didn't use the Elder Oblex from the Mind Flayer perspective, I basically when they were developing this tech, and they found some old Netherese tech to kind of like duplicate the cloning procedure. The byproduct of the cloning procedure left behind ooze, and they were containing it in their laboratory. So when the experiments broke free and got out, all the ooze kind of collected, and I used the elder Oblex as that kind of like collective goop there. And that's also why I use the Slithermorph as well too, because I find, oh, here's another ooze that's just randomly created. And the players had to deal with an Elder Oblex and a Slithermorph at the same time. But the Elder Oblex was just kind of like poking at them with like spells that they didn't realize that it was poking at them with until they took a long rest after the Slithermorph, and then I started fucking with them with it. And I was able to, like I said, basically use it as a base and just kind of tailor it to this whole idea that there's this cloning lab, and it was just a byproduct of the cloning lab, and the stats just worked perfectly for it. I didn't have to change a thing. So I really did like that. And, you know, now I have all these Manchun clones running around that are all clerics and rogues and shit.
Awesome.
But like these are the monsters that we need. We need something that has a really good reference to how it exists in the Faerun, and just let us be able to do creative modifications to it, you know?
Yeah.
We need more beholders. We need more goblins. We need more everything.
All right. You guys feel ready for the Dragonborn ecology?
I just have one question before we start.
Okay.
And this actually is a question that I need to know for all my scalies out there.
Oh God.
Do Dragonborns have a cloaca?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay. And
Yeah, let's do it.
Hold on a second. I highlighted this. Center physiology here. Dragonborn, despite a passing resemblance to reptilian creatures, are actually warm-blooded beings rather than cold-blooded reptiles. Their bodies are hot enough to seem even feverish to human sensibilities. This keeps a Dragonborn more comfortable in cold temperatures. A lack of body hair coupled with a large mouth that can be opened to release body heat means that a Dragonborn is no more vulnerable to hot temperatures than a human, however. Like true dragons, however, Dragonborn hatch from eggs, usually laid singly or more rarely in a pair.
just
Hatchlings
like
are
beholders.
quickly capable of standing and walking, but their teeth take a few months to come in. During this time, the mother nurses her offspring, which seemed weird to me when I read that. Nurses the offspring implies mammaries, meaning mammal.
Yeah,
But I guess there are warm-blooded, but there are also being hatched from an egg.
Listen,
so it seems a little weird.
So, hey, you know, there's things in Australia that are mammals that are hatched from eggs too. So.
Oh shit, Dragonborn are Australian? Oh fuck. She slowly weans the child to soft and then normal food, which for Dragonborn is usually more meat than other edibles. By the end of the first year, Dragonborn hatchling has the mental and physical development of a 3-year-old human child. At about 12 years of age, Dragonborn's lanky version of his or her adult self, and over the next 3 years, he or she fills out in an imposing adult form. So by 15, they're full-on adults. So let me back the truck up though. That is the Ecology of the Dragonborn from Dragon Magazine 365 from July 2008. 4th edition, when Dragonborn were officially added to the canon as player handbooks based characters. That said, we got to back the truck up. We got to back the truck up pretty far.
Yep.
So the earliest days of D&D, dragons could take human form. Typically, the good dragons, all the metallic dragons, right?
Yep.
There were some other dragons that could do such, like the Oriental dragons in the Fiend Folio, or the Deep Dragon in the Drow of the Underdark, or in some dragons in the Council of Worm setting. Also, they made it possible so you can play dragons in the D&D game, right? However, you guys familiar with Todd Lockwood?
I know that name. I don't know why.
He is the artist for all of the Player's Handbook of 3rd edition. So all of the characters in the Player's Handbook is him. All the covers of Dritz, that's him. The fantastic fantasy artist.
Yeah. I'm thinking he did work with Pathfinder afterwards.
I think he did too. But I think he eventually came back to D&D. That said, though, back in 1980, he was just a dude that played D&D. He was a 23-year-old dude that played D&D, and he wrote into to Dragon Magazine, April 1980, and he wrote up the Crowley. The Crowley was a draconic bipedal creature with wings. It looks and he has his own little art in there from 1979 that he drew, and it looks very much like a modern looking Dragonborn. Probably more like I don't know, the physique of a Conan than you might think of your standard Dragonborn, but yeah. So it's a strong race of warm-blooded flying reptilians. And it gives you the standard sort of D&D first edition stats of like the 3 to 60 in a layer, 25% of women with young and blah 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 hit dice.
Yep.
Cruelly encountered among men are usually mercenaries or slavers with their high price. When the price is right, though, they've been seen as bodyguards or even military officers. Some neutral and evil clans use slaves to work fields. Of course, slavery back in the 80s, of course, going to be mentioned. But I just thought this was interesting because the kernel of creation of Dragonborn is right here. They're warm-blooded, they're bipedal, sometimes they have wings, and they have eggs.
Eggs.
And
So,
that was, what year was that when he put that out?
1980, before Draconians appeared in Autumn's Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which was 1984.
Yeah, that's what I was, because I know Draconians were pretty damn early.
Right. So that was 1984, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, Weiss and Hickman. So I thought that was really interesting because Todd Lockwood, I did not know, prolific D&D writer or anything like that, but I knew he was a fantastic artist. But like, this is clearly Lockwood's art. This is clearly something he wrote up for his own home game. So going back,
first stuff, Todd Lockwood's first stuff for art for TSR. He said he had sent his portfolio to TSR, but he got a real fantasy portfolio, and an art director gave him a bunch of character portraits to do for Spellfire decks.
Yep.
That's your thing.
I bet you I have a bunch of those downstairs in my big box of Spellfire.
Most likely.
But yeah, he really became prolific when third edition came out, because like if you look through the entirety of the player's handbook, it's mostly his art. Yep. It's very unique, and like the iconic versions of Dritz Stewart and his crew was by Lockwood as well. Most of the covers, I mean, there's a couple that are done by Elmore and some of those other TSR guys, but it's mostly Lockwood.
So talking about Draconians briefly, but yeah, the Dragonborn apparently, or at least the precursors of it, was first. The Draconians, 84 is what you said, or yeah, and they are different. Like, they actually are dragon creatures. They were good dragon eggs that were stolen and perverted to become the Draconians. They are dragon creatures, no matter how you look at it. Later on in 1988, the Azure Bonds book, the novel, was released, and if you've ever read it, or at the very least, I know a lot of you are going to be familiar with the character Dragonbait.
Oh yeah,
Sariel.
Right, the Sariels, and I don't know when they were first brought around, but they are very much dragonoid creatures, or they could be lizard, but they still have like
dinosaur creatures.
They're more they're dinosaur-based creatures
because there's a type of them. Ironically, there is a Triceratops one. I forget what they're specifically called, but they're humanoid lizards with Triceratops heads.
Okay,
but they're the wizards.
Yeah, they're yeah.
So they're spellcasting wizards who can't talk.
I mean, they could talk with like sense.
They talk in their language, yeah.
Yeah,
they have their own language, but their language is pheromones. Dragonbait actually reappears in 5e.
Oh yeah. He's shown up a bunch since that book.
I mean, I loved that book. I mean, it was it was also actually the second game I ever played of Dungeons and Dragons was the Gold Box
video game,
Azure Bonds, which was just fantastic.
Yeah. Give me less Dritz, some more Dragonbait.
Absolutely, yeah. So Dragonbait was a finhead Sariel, and he is a rare breed of scaly kind, specifically a sauroid race, not native to Tarl. Several races existed, dwelling in the Lost Vale. The Lost Vale was basically Dinosaur Vale.
It was Dinosaur Valley.
But they appeared in the Song of the Sariels whenever you have Finder, Wyvern, Spur, and all of those guys.
Yeah.
Those books were written by Jeff Grubb and Kate Novak, and Jeff Grubb, I think, actually will be at Gary.
He's supposed to be at Gary Con, yeah.
I think actually on the list, I was trying to see if we can get into one of his games.
Damn.
Because
that would be cool.
Definitely love to do that. But let me get back to the evolution of Dragonborn, because I didn't quite finish. Jay, you just covered Draconians, which that's 1984. You're absolutely right. You took good dragon eggs, and then the dark goddess
Takesis.
or aka Tiamat,
Nope.
in later editions,
Yep.
corrupted them. But they were, oh my god, those were so dangerous in that game, because when you killed them, they fucking exploded.
Well,
they were awful.
They did different ones depending on which one you killed, but
They-
every
they-
one of them up on death had some awful effect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
one of them
awful
turned to
thing.
stone. One of them turned to a pool of bubbling acid. One of them exploded.
The ones that turned to stone would actually trap your weapon in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, those appear in Dragon's Bottom Twilight, Dragons of Despair. Dragonkin then appeared in Forgotten Realms setting, and the Dark Sun setting, the Defilers could become dragons over time. They weren't exactly Dragonborn, but it's kind of tangentially related. Monster Compendium Annual Volume 3 presented the Were Dragon, which became the Song Dragon in 3rd edition's Monsters of Faerun. And the Dragon Dice game even had a representative of the Dragonkin. However, in 3rd edition, was as we already discussed earlier, the new look and feel for kobolds, which were draconic by 3rd edition. In addition, those that played 3rd edition might be familiar with the level adjustment. You could be a half fiend or a half dragon, so you could have wings and have a +6 to your strength bonus and a +4 to this. But your level adjustment is +3 because you're so much more powerful than somebody else who has levels that's actually venturing around. However, one race that fell into that subtype was the Dragonborn of Bahamut, which came out in Races of the Dragon, which came out in 2006, is what I think I said earlier. And Races of the Dragon has an entire chapter over on the Dragonborn, and kind of goes over their history and how they came about. And in 3rd edition, this was basically a way for people to have a dragonkin race that wasn't going to take a level adjustment, because taking a level adjustment seemed like a really cool idea at the time, but man, it sucked to actually do that, especially if you were a spellcaster. You were awful.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it hurt. It hurt if you were even a melee character, because you wouldn't have the extra attacks, and just like, I've got a lot of HP because of my con and my strength bonus, but shit, I suck at everything else.
Yeah, imagine because you could play a Mind Flayer, but the level adjustment was 8.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
anything with more than a 1 was utterly garbage.
Yeah, it was awful. I mean, and forget even multi-classing. God. So the solution in this edition was they made the Race of the Dragon book, which we already discussed. There's the Kobold section. There's also one on spell scales, which I'll talk about later. But the Dragonborn was the Dragonborn, specifically the Dragonborn of Bahamut. This is a ritual, a humanoid, an elf, halfling, human, dwarf, whatever, would answer the Platinum Dragon's call to serve him. And you would undergo a ritual, and you would become a Dragonborn. And you would literally change your race to Dragonborn. You would gain some special abilities, like being immune to the frightful presence of dragons. You'd have a draconic aspect. You could choose from abilities where you have the heart of a dragon, or you can have the wings of a dragon, or you can have the mind of the dragon. So you're immune to certain things. You have better dark vision. You have blind sense. You gain some of the abilities of a dragon, which progressively get better as you get up in level. And specifically, if you're serving Bahamut, you are fighting evil dragons on his behalf. And I thought that was just so fucking cool. And it's a very, very interesting way that they kind of just kind of shoehorned them into 3rd edition, and really had almost 5th edition sensibilities to it, because they said fuck level adjustment. Just, this is a really cool thing that your player characters can go through to go fight the hordes of evil of Tiamat. And this is what you got to do. And you gain a lot of cool abilities, but back in 3rd edition, you're a fucking monster. Like, the other races don't, like, Tiefling was not a standard race. Azamar was very rare. Nobody's running around as a goddamn half dragon. Like, the strangest thing you might see would be like a freaking dwarf or an elf. Like, then suddenly you have Dragonborn running around with wings, and like, is that a monster? Do we kill it? Do we shoot first, ask questions later? So I never actually managed to in third edition. This never came up. Nobody ever had this book in third edition. I think I bought it after third edition stopped being a thing.
Yeah, I never saw it either.
Over to Pathfinder, but this is like really, really neat. I really do like it. But in fourth edition, as Chris can probably regale us with, is when Dragonborn becomes a player character playable race. Yeah, Bahamut was the way they tried to put it in there in the first way was that. But in fourth edition, I want to say, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong here. There's something for as far as the lore goes. The spell plague ends, Forgotten Realms, blah blah blah. Abir Toril separates, comes back together, or whatever, and like a bunch of Dragonborn appear in the Forgotten Realms, and suddenly they're player character race, something like that. Close.
I mean, with the way the spell plague hit and kind of came and left, yeah, it just kind of like they were just there. Same thing with the tieflings, like they were just there now, and they're not as accepted as they were in fifth. They just kind of appeared out of nothingness.
Yeah, it says 1479. I'm looking at the Forgotten Realms wiki. Apparently, Time and Thyr, the Dragonborn nation formed from this expatriate of the Aviar, was the strongest center of Dragonborn culture on Toril. So,
but when they came out in the PHB, though, that's when it was just an interior veil. There was no Forgotten Realms addition to it. So it was just like, hey, these guys have always been here.
Right.
And they just kind of like rolled it into Forgotten Realms, and they put some data out there, but that was about it.
Yeah. So so in Dragon Magazine 365, where I'm getting a lot of this information from, there's actually a full-on ecology of the Dragonborn. And just, we've already gone over reproduction, so I'm not going to go over that again. So the lore they came up with in fourth edition for their creation, because I guess they're kind of ignoring the Dragonborn of Bahamut thing, is that as far as the legends go, Io, not Ao, Io, the greatest dragon god, shaped the Dragonborn as servants to dragons at the same time he created the first dragons. Elemental essence and astral spirit went into the making, as with all worldly creatures, but with their greater kin, Dragonborn were given a balance favoring the elemental. Other tales, however, claim that Io died in the clashes between dragons and the gods and the primordials, and the draconic gods Tiamat and Bahamut merged from the two halves of Io's sundered corpse. Dragonborn sprang, ready to serve the gods, the dragons from Io's spilled blood. Regardless of the truth of the matter, after numerous Dragonborn kingdoms had passed in forgotten history, a unified array of Dragonborn city-states formed the storied empire of Arcosia, where dragon nobles integrated under a dragon emperor mythically dubbed the Golden One. Dragonborn bureaucracy supported the nobles, protected a military headed by the first general, Serena Moonscale. Imperial priests held strongly to the tenets of Erithus, Ioun, and Cord. Those are Greyhawk gods, aren't they?
Yes.
Ioun and Cord?
Yeah, Cord definitely is.
Okay. And apparently there was an evil city-state called Baal Terath that basically was all dedicated to Tiamat. And of course they ended up killing each other. And what's left is what's left. But yeah, so the physiology we already went over, and how they age. Here we go. So healthy self-image of a Dragonborn. Few Dragonborn are timid and reserved, except as a matter of showing proper respect to others, guided by personal morals. Dragonborn look out for themselves, along with those creatures and items that they value. They have no trouble asking for what they need or taking time to improve their own abilities. And just kind of goes through their culture, Dragonborn clans. Doesn't necessarily matter what the color of their scales are. Enemies, allies, a bunch of different stuff about more stuff about Dragonborn. But I just thought it's an interesting and kind of a weird path to make these guys into player character races. It basically took from 1980, that Dragon magazine, to, I guess, when was fourth edition? 2010?
2010-ish. Yeah.
So, no, 2008, that was the Dragon magazine. So, 28 years to become a player character race? Yeah.
It's a long time.
And they've continued to kind of evolve as to what they are, because even in 5th edition, they weren't really at least until Fizzbands came out, not really a great race. They weren't all that good.
No,
I
they
think
were not.
Mordenkainen's what it was, Monsters of the Multiverse came out, and they kind of rewrote them a little bit and made it so that they could use their mediocre breath weapon more than once a day.
Yeah, being able to use the breath weapon in the place of one of your attacks made it much better.
Oh my god, yeah, it made a fighter actually, really cool with that. I mean, you can use it as many times as your proficiency modifier. Even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
But baseline 2014 Dragonborn was dog shit. What? I haven't actually really looked at
didn't
the
even
2024
have dark
version.
vision.
No, of course they don't have dark vision. Yeah, why would they? Which was a complaint from one of my players in my game for years until he got some goggles that allowed him to see in the dark.
Yeah,
Everybody else in the party was some sort of
Yep.
sub race that had it, and just the Dragonborn couldn't. And it was like, what do you mean Dragonborn can't? They only have blind sight or something? He's like, yeah, I've got blind sight, sure.
Yeah, I'm blind in the dark.
Got it.
Yeah, my players, my play group tends to always hate me because I play fucking humans all the time.
Oh shit! 2024 Dragonborn have dark vision again.
Yeah, they did add that.
And at level 5,
Ew.
they get Draconic Flight, just the base species now, which is awesome. Because you have to take a feat in 2014. And of course, you have resistance to your Draconic Ancestry type, and you can replace one of your attacks with your breath weapon. And you can use it. Yeah, so they changed it basically to the Mordenkainen's version, except they also added Draconic Flight, which is great.
Yeah.
So I really like where Dragonborn are at now. Is what I'm getting at.
They're much better than they were for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's quite a history, and honestly, I didn't even know all of that.
Definitely, I did not either. I delved pretty deep into it this afternoon.
Yeah, finding that information about them from first edition had to have taken a little bit of work because that doesn't even sound necessarily like it's linked to them. So you must have come across some article that mentions it or something.
It was actually a little sidebar in the ecology in the 2008 Dragon.
Okay.
That mentions Lockwood, or I never would have found that either. Like I don't frequently just flip through old Dragon magazines.
Yeah, well, yeah, some of us do.
I wish I had time to. I think pretty cool. But yeah. So yeah, next week I think Jay's got the ecology, or maybe Christian.
Somebody will.
Yep, one of us can grab it.
But
real quick,
they'll release a little bit more about the monsters manual by then.
Maybe. Real quick before we go though, like as you were talking about the Dragonborn and stuff, I was trying to Google dragon bait, and I'm not getting the results I think I should be.
I'm afraid of what you found.
Yeah, let's just end it before it goes in a Chris direction.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye, Krux.
I don't understand how the Google works.